I'm happy to introduce Mark Fish, who's going to talk about big data in credit risk decisioning. Welcome, Mark.
Thank you, everybody. It's great to see you all here. I hope you all really enjoyed this morning as much as we all have. I kind of wanted to bring this back a little bit. We've talked a lot about big data over the morning. And I wanted to have a look at actually what does this mean for our industry? What does it mean to credit risk in the UK to be moving on to big data? It would help if I had a there we go. Just before I get into that though, I just wanted to talk a little bit about Ignite. It's a term that's come up several times already today. It's probably going to come up again later. It's very much at the heart of Equifax's big data story. And maybe not everybody here is completely familiar with what that means. And actually Ignite isn't one thing. It's at least three things, as we see here. Actually, if we break each of those down, there are many value-add components within Ignite itself. But what it is it's a result of the investments that Equifax have been making. We heard a little bit about that earlier. The investments we've been making in big data ourselves. If we go back kind of 5 or 6 years, we didn't really have the big data strategy. We had a lot of data. We were using a lot of data. What we didn't really have is a vision of what we were going to do with it, how we were going to get the most out of that. So we set out on revolutionising that, on changing what we were doing internally. Moving away from having data in lots of silos across the business, which was accessible, analysts were able to use it, but pulling it all into one place, allowing those analysts to leverage big data technologies, machine learning, the kind of thing we've been hearing about this morning, bringing in new skill sets, building up a data science team, investing in our people, making sure that actually we could become the experts in this kind of field. And as we did that, we started to make some improvements in what we were doing. We started to explore. We've been looking into neuro decision. And as we go around and talk to clients about this, they were asking us, well, how can we benefit from that? What can you give to us that allows us to get onto this big data roadmap as well? So that's where Ignite was born out of. It's us having a look at, well, actually, we're not just doing this for ourselves. We need to be bringing something new to the industry on the back of the work that we've been doing. And so Ignite was born. Splits broadly into 3 areas. We've got models and scores over on the far side there. And what that is really just the recognition of the fact that we can do new things now. We can bring new products, we can link data together, we can use machine learning algorithms in ways that we just weren't able to do before. And clients are coming to us with problems that they're having with their own data that they're just not able to solve. They either haven't got the skill sets, they haven't got the technology, they haven't got the data that we've got available. And they're coming to us and asking us, well, actually, now that you've got this infrastructure, what can you do for us? In the middle there, the Ignite apps are a really complementary service to that. And what we're looking at with apps is really about more visualization of data. So taking it away a little bit from the detailed analysis, machine learning and analytics per se, and actually looking at what is it that the people running the business need. Can we bring the data to life and help them interact and find the niches in the data in a way that they wouldn't be able to do with what we've been providing in the past? We're moving away from sending people spreadsheets, CSV files, PDFs, moving away from that static view, and with an app people can get much more interactively into the data and find where the real value is for them. And then we've got Ignite Direct, which for us is probably the most exciting part of Ignite. Having gone through that journey over the last few years, having learned ourselves what big data is, how to work with these technologies, how to get the best out of machine learning. Actually, we've had to put the support process in place. We've had to learn a lot through that time. I'm actually in a position now, using Amazon Cloud, to set up environments that our clients can access. and they can start to play with the data, and they can start to get on that roadmap. And we're seeing a lot of interest from people who are currently a little bit restricted. They can't really see the path for how they're going to start to leverage this kind of thing. Ignite Direct could be a real game changer for companies like that. If we think about the kind of benefits that this could bring, staying to that point around clients looking to make that step change from where they are today and where they want to be to leverage this kind of power. Work with a lot of clients and we talk to them about actually, well, what setup have you got today? What's stopping you from moving on this kind of journey? How can we help you with that? And they're all very kind of fixed in what they're doing. They've been doing the same kind of thing for a decade, 2 decades. They've got hardware sat around in a data center somewhere. That hardware, it's expensive. It's limited with how much data you can put in there. It's limited to the processing power. And they want to get into big data. They want to start using Hadoop and cloud, but actually they just haven't got the people there. They haven't got the IT resources with the skill sets to be able to get them there. What we can do now, having gone through that transformation ourselves, is we can set up all of those platforms, we can license the tools, we can source and link the data for our clients, and we can just provision all of that ready for an analyst to just get straight in, stuck into building out models, getting to find some value, and actually doing what analysts are good at, which is playing around with the data. There's a whole series of other advantages that this could be bringing. I think one of the big plays that we see in the market is that element of support that we can give our clients. So this isn't just about providing technology. What we want to do is get much closer to you guys, really. We want to be able to work more closely with you on your analytical projects. The likes of Ignite Direct will allow us to build an environment that you can access, that we can access. You can nominate partners, they can come and have access to there. A much more collaborative approach to analytics so that you can learn from us, we can learn from you. And there's more to that as well. There's more to that community side. We're looking at how we can share experience with all of our clients, how we can bring you in, how we can get you working with the technology. We're looking at how we can set up the likes of the hackathons, getting some of our industry partners, bring them all together, working on challenges, learning from each other, sharing our experiences, and improving each of us in a way that we can go away and we can bring benefits to our businesses. One of the other big points with the likes of Ignite for me as well is the feedback loops that you can get through this. So we're not talking here about an analytical platform where you load some data in, it sits there, 6 months later you might decide to go and have a look at it. What we can get through here are actually constant feeds of data. So you're constantly refreshing what you have available, you're getting the latest view of what your customers are doing, and as soon as your analysts want to go and start playing with that data, you've got it there, you've got it available, and you can see how you're performing once you've built the model. Actually, do you see the improvements that you're expecting it to bring? If you have started rejecting some more people, actually, how did that work? Can you do some more around reject reference? Can you get the data coming in and showing that instantly? And once you see that, have we got the loop in place that allows you to then go fix any issues that you see and start using those improved models? Now, I wanted to share a little bit of a use case with you, but I'm always really hesitant to share use cases on Ignite Direct because, you know, it's an analytical platform. There are uses for this wherever we might want to use analytics. So I'm going to talk you through one, but we just need to realize that this isn't one thing. This isn't about one use case solving for one problem. This is something that can be utilized throughout the analytical life cycle. So if you're informing, if you're investigating, looking for how you're performing and where there might be some benefits to be had, yeah, Ignite can service that. If you're exploring the data and you're looking at, well, now I know there's a problem, what is there in the data that can help me resolve that? We can solve for that. You're onto your modeling stage, absolutely. You can model all of those. We've talked here about NDT. NDT is a big part of Ignite. Ignite's a big part of NDT. You'll be able to leverage our tools. You'll be able to leverage industry standard tools. Some of those tools that we're creating, will also have a deployment element. So it's no longer just a siloed analytical environment where traditionally you've built your models, you've had them signed off, you've gone through your governance. Oh, that should be the end of it. But no, that's actually the start of the journey at the moment. The time taken from model sign-off to actually getting that into an operational environment. And what are we looking at, 6 months? At best, 6 months? The cost to do that kind of thing at the moment in existing infrastructures is really, really high. What we're looking at here is actually, can we get the tools in your hands that allow you to push models, characteristics into production platforms in what we call A2P 30, analytics to production in 30 days. So there's no longer a need to write up the model, send it to IT, wait for IT resource, then rewrite all of that in another language, which is all very native, deployed very quickly. And we've got the monitoring side as well, like I say. Those feeds of data or the data visualizations, now I've done something, now I'm making decisions, am I seeing the improvement that I expect? But I will talk about a use case. I think you can see that at the back, maybe. But I wanted to look at first, so we talk about credit risk. Most of what we do in this space is around building scorecards. So let's just have a think first of all, how are people doing that today? Well, the first step is I need to know a little bit more information about my customers. So I get some data about them, typically from a credit bureau. Let's get some data that's going to help me predict which are the good customers, which are the bad customers. What is that data today? A lot of the time, what people are taking from us are characteristics. So we've got 4,500 characteristics, very highly predictive, very useful in helping people make decisions on their customers. But they're characteristics. They're still derived data. But it's fine, so we'll take that data and we'll add in something else, so something to model against. What we would normally have there are some outcomes, who's performing well, who isn't performing well. You might be adding some of your own data in there. What else have I got on these customers that I think might be predictive? And I build a scorecard with that. And, that's okay. We've been doing that for a few decades, and it's worked okay. But I think there's a difference now. One of the things that we see time and time is sampling down of the data. I think Kenneth might have talked about it earlier. So looking at a subpopulation of my customers, I'm going to take 50% and I'm going to work out how best to model on that population. I'm going to assume that whatever I learn there is going to be applicable to my entire population. Okay, that's fine. One of the main reasons we're doing that is that people haven't got big data analytical platforms. They're struggling to get the volume of data. So we think what you could be taking there, 4,500 characteristics on all your customers, actually, no, I can't manage that. My environment can't manage it. I haven't got the processing power. So I'll choose fewer characteristics and I'll just choose a subpopulation. What that means is that you're missing actually some of the niches within your customer base. Where there's a subpopulation in that customer base, you don't know enough about them. You're not getting a statistically representative sample of those customers. And then you can't decision on them as well as you'd like to. Who are these people? A lot of these people are the financially vulnerable people that we keep saying we need to be helping within this industry. But if we don't know enough about them, we can't model it, we can't judge which of those are going to be good credit risks, which are going to be bad credit risks. So with big data, we need to stop thinking about sampling. We need to be looking at full populations. Let's have a look at the whole set and try and work out what's going to work best across all of those. So, okay, we're making some progress. But actually, we talked about the characteristics. And again, these are derived characteristics. Very predictive, work very well across the market. But actually, there's something else we could be using. Well, what were they derived from? They were derived from some very valuable data assets that we've got available to us. Some of them huge, much, much bigger than the characteristics you were taking before. So you might be looking at your search data, what inquiries have been made on my customer. You might be looking at CCJs, where have they had to pay back, been taken to court, having to pay back some money. But also our trade line data, insight data. Line by line, every credit agreement that your customers have taken out. And you can move from one line of characteristics per customer. Within that one data set, you can be talking 20 plus lines of information. And we keep talking about just that little bit of extra information that you have can just bring you percentage points improvements in what it is that you're trying to build out. But that's not the end of it. This is the data we use typically. What else is there available? We've got transactional data, payments data, geodemographic. What data have you got within your own organizations that you'd love to put into an environment and model against all of this? And you might have had a little inkling, well, if we could get that into a scorecard, that might be predictive. That might tell us something else about those customers that helps me find more good customers and accept fewer bad customers. We can bring all of that into one environment, all linked together, all ready for an analyst to play with, and actually with the right tools as well. So we can use logistic regression on those smaller samples. That's what people have been doing for a long time, but we're moving into the machine learning world. We've got processing power behind this that allows us to run hugely complex algorithms across huge amounts of data, much faster than a lot of people are doing on their original samples today. And this isn't a static view. I keep saying it. This is something that you can actually be getting refreshed on an ongoing basis. You can get this level of detail about your customers as a regular feed, and you can be constantly looking at ways that you can make those kind of improvements. And that can all be facilitated through Ignite. What we also have made some big improvements to recently, we've moved Ignite Direct to the cloud. We've got some people with us today from Amazon Web Services. We've moved it to the cloud because we still were coming under the same kind of restraints. We'd looked to move to big data, but we initially went with hardware. And when you want to grow and you want to respond, you want to be able to do more, that still gives you a constraint. But with cloud, it's so flexible, you can spin up new processing power very, very quickly. We're talking hours. You can do these kind of things automatically. You can spin up more processing power, and you pay for the power you're using. You're not paying for some storage space that you might need to use in 10 years' time. You're paying for the processing power that you're using at that moment, and much more efficient use of the technology. I wanted to give an example as well about how we've been using this. So this is an Ignite solution that's come out of our innovation team locally. And we wanted to look at synthetic IDs, see what we could do to try and stop the proliferation of synthetic IDs throughout our industry. So synthetic ID is where a fraudster has set up an account. They've found a gap in the armor of the industry that allows them to open an initial account. Once I've got that one account, I can use that then to open another credit line somewhere else, build that up over time. I can get a lot of credit, and at some point, I'm going to disappear with the money. You're going to be left chasing somebody that never actually existed. Big problem that we face across the industry. What we did was we had a look at a lot of data. So we see here 500 million insight records. That's a single snapshot of the data that we've got available there. A lot of data points within there. We've got our electoral roll data, 46 million records on there, linked together with insight. We link that together with some partners' data, known fraudulent outcomes. So we were able to model that and say, actually, we can see here where there's been a proven synthetic ID. So let's look for patterns in the rest of the data that match up to that. And we found property ownership, 30 million records came in, very helpful. And actually what we saw through that as well was, because we've got that processing power available, we sampled a few different data assets as well. Not all of them were predictive, but we were able to do that, and we were able to blend it and make mistakes without it taking as long, without having to add another 3 weeks to the project while somebody waited for a couple of servers to run through that amount of data. So that's all great. What we also needed to do, we took that massive data set and we looked at point of time retrospectives. So it wasn't static. It was looking back over 5 years, because we didn't just want to find out who the fraudsters were and how we could best predict them. We wanted to know how quickly could we predict them. When that account gets set up, how quickly could we say with confidence, this is a synthetic ID? Found out actually, after 6 months, we see the same patterns, and we can start to flag up those kind of accounts, and we can start to protect you, the lenders, from exposure to synthetic IDs. We've found about 6,000 so far that we think are synthetic IDs. It's to be verified, but the model's coming out with a Gini KS of about 0.8, very predictive. We're very confident that this is going to really help everybody. So that's the kind of power that we can get. I just wanted to touch on one other subject before we finish. At the start, Mark referenced the first Spark event that we had in Atlanta, and one of the highlights of that event was the announcement that we're going to be working more closely with our friends at FICO. We've already had a strong partnership, certainly locally and globally, with them for a number of years. We've been working on a number of initiatives. But we announced the Data Decisions Cloud, which has been great for us, a real opportunity for us to collaborate, look at how that combination of our data, our analytics, their platforms and their technology can come together and bring new solutions to the local market. And we've been working to identify, well, actually, look, what does it mean for you? What does it mean for the industry? What can we be doing here? The first thing we went straight to was getting a more connected experience between those platforms. So no longer needing to come to Equifax for one thing, FICO for another, and hoping they meet somewhere in the middle. What we're doing here is we're taking Equifax's decision management suite. We've got some really good tools, similar in a way to some of the ones that we're building out on Ignite, but we want to give our clients the option of working with their tool set and our tool set. And actually one of the key factors in that decision might be, actually, if I'm working with FICO already, I can use their tools in Ignite, and that idea of A to P30, pushing my code out into an online platform, can work with FICO platforms. We can get it pushed into their engines, and that's across the credit lifecycle. We've also got our risk and affordability decision suite, lovingly known as RADS, to those who don't want to say it out in long every time. What we've got with RADS are some highly predictive decision keys that have been developed, and we launched these recently to help our clients addressing key regulatory requirements around creditworthiness and around affordability for their customer bases, so they can be keeping an ongoing view of how their customers are performing, where they're getting stressed, where they may be getting a bit more relaxed from a financial perspective, and help you, the lenders, actually respond to that. Those decision keys are available now within the credit card markets and within FICO's Triad system, but we're looking at a whole series of changes and other areas that we could build that out into, so we can start to bring value to other sectors. And also we've got our multi-dimensional benchmarking. So this is something that we do already. This is something that FICO do already. And what we're looking at is actually we could combine those services, bring them together into one solution, and allow people to get a unique view of what's going on, both with their own portfolios, benchmarking that against the industry and against their peer groups, looking at economical data and actually what trends we see there and how they impact what you're seeing, bringing in some of the FICO operational data and the strategy reviews that they can do on top of that, where they can help you identify where the key areas for improvement could be and how you could improve your strategy to get better results, all supported by the FICO advisory team, so industry experts looking through this and helping you get the best out of your strategy. So that's pretty much it from me. Just the last thing to say, during the lunch break and through the break in the afternoon, we've got a few stalls out at the back there. We're delighted to be joined by some of our partners. We've got some of the guys from AWS. We've actually got the guy who coded Ignite Direct onto AWS for the first time. It's great to have them here supporting us. So if you'd like to know anything about what they've been doing and how they've been working with us, I'm sure they'd be delighted to talk to you. We've got our partners from FICO here as well, if you want to know any more about the solutions that I've just touched upon. And we've got an Ignite stall, as well as a couple of other Equifax-run stalls back there. If you want to learn any more about what's going on in our world, please just come along. But for now, that was all